Hi, I'm Jesse at Strobepro.com, and today I'm going to be showing you the new Strobepro Optical Snoot kit, and this is version 2. We've made a bunch of changes to the snoot, added some more lens options, given you more value for your money. So let's take a look what it's all about. So you might be wondering what an optical snoot is. Well, quite simply, it's just a device that you attach to either your LED light or your strobe light. You put a gobo inside there, which is just basically a pattern cut out of metal. And it allows you to project that pattern on your subject, on your backdrop, basically wherever you point the snoot. You've also got gels, you have a number of different lens options that you can focus, you can defocus, and it's just really a unique way to add special effects to your image that you couldn't easily do in Photoshop. So let's take a look what's inside the box. So although we have a number of different options which you're going to see on the drop down of the optical snoot on the Strobepro website, every snoot is going to come with a base starter package. So let's open this up and show you what it is exactly. So the main thing that you're going to be seeing here is the actual snoot itself. It's going to come with a Bowens ring on that, although we can pick different mounts, which I'll show you in a minute. You're going to have the actual gobo holder itself, and then you'll have this small box right here, and inside there we have our gels, and then we also have our set of 16 different gobos, which is drastically increased from the previous version, which was only 4. So those are the main parts to it, and from there we can choose a number of different options. Like I said, we can choose the speed ring. So if you shoot Pro Photo, Elinchrom, Alien B, it doesn't matter, we can change that ring. You might notice on the snoot that there is no lens attached to it right out of the box, and you are going to need a lens to make this work. So we give you a number of options that you can choose to use with the snoot. So you can choose from Canon or Nikon lens adapters. That allows you to use any existing lens that you might already have. Or we have the new Strobepro lens, which is a 50mm 1.8, which is a great wide aperture lens that works really well with this snoot as well. So let's take a closer look at those lens options and get right into it. So one of the new options that you can get with the version 2 of this snoot is a new Strobepro lens. This is a 50mm lens, full metal lens, 1.8 aperture, and we've optimized this lens to work really well with the snoot. You're not going to get any vignetting on the patterns. It lets a lot of light through, which can be an issue if you're not using a wide aperture lens. And it's also got some other features that I'm going to show you in a second. So when you choose this on the website, you'll just select it on the drop down there. You're going to add the lens, and you're actually going to get a discount if you purchase it with the snoot at the time of purchase there. So we just have a protective cover on the top here that pops off to expose the lens. And all we're going to do, it's a screw mount, so this is already installed on there, the actual receiving ring. And we just go on, line it up, and then just screw it in. You don't want to cross thread any threads, so if it's binding or something, just make sure you stop and make sure that it's aligned. And there we go. You just go until it's snug. You don't have to over tighten it or anything. And right here you can see that it's open there. We have a focusing ring on the outside, which you can use to focus the patterns, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. One of the other nice options with this is that you get another way to mount your gels. So I just grabbed one of the included gels that you're going to get here, and normally you would have to put this on the gobo mounting plate, but this lens is actually designed to receive that. And so you just have to go to this top ring here, and it can be a little snug at first. We're not turning the whole focusing ring, we're just turning this little black ring on the end. And that's going to screw off there. And what you're going to do, take your gel, and it's a hard plastic gel, and just remember these gels have a plastic film on them when they're new, so I haven't taken that off. Just make sure that you take that off. And you're going to insert it inside that metal ring. And from there, just go back, and then you can quickly screw that right back on. So that's going to be exclusive to this lens. Otherwise, you're going to have to mount that in the gobo plate, and you're going to get better performance off of it when it's separated from that gobo plate. So that's the first lens option. We're going to show you a couple patterns and how this works actually, but let's take a look at a couple of the Nikon and Canon options as well. The original version of the Snoot had a Canon adapter fixed right to it. So you could mount your Canon lenses to it. You could not change those though. Now with our new system, we can use the Strobepro lens, which I already showed you. We can use a Canon, but it is removable now. So just like before with the lens, we're just going to line that up and screw it in. So that's all there is to that. Now you can take any Canon EF mount lens that you have and attach it just like that, just like as if you were attaching it to your camera. To remove it, we have a little release. You just pull that down, give your lens the turn just like you would on your camera, and it's gonna pop right out there. So that's great for Canon. And one thing about Canon lenses is that by default, they always have their aperture wide open. So that's a little bit different to Nikon, where we run into a bit of a problem. Nikon lenses by default are always closed. And the problem with an optical snoot is that we are trying to push as much light into this as possible. And if we have a closed aperture, we're gonna run into problems. You're not gonna get near as much light into that. So let me show you a little bit about the Nikon here, and we have a couple options for that. So if you have an older style lens, like this one here that has an aperture ring on it, it's no problem. You don't have to worry about anything. Just pop your Nikon lens on there. We can open that wide open with the aperture ring, and we're good to go. So that would just be, again, we would take our Nikon, screw it on there, and then go line it up till it goes flush. Give it a quarter turn, just make sure it's firm there, lock it on, and then we're good to go. We have our Nikon lens on there. And again, you need to make sure that if you're shooting with Nikon that you have this aperture ring. The problem is a lot of those lenses don't have it. So let's take this off. I can pop the lens off just by pushing the release down there. Unscrew that. And I'm going to show you another way that if you don't have an aperture ring on your Nikon lens, that you can still use those lenses. Okay, Nikon users, we still have you covered if you want to use your F-mount lenses that don't have an aperture ring. It's no problem, we have an adapter for that. So you're going to see on the website an option called the Nikon combo adapter. And on there, you're going to get two pieces if you select that. You're actually going to get a Canon mount ring here, and you're also going to get this aperture control for Nikon. And the way that they work is this one is going to mount again onto the actual snoot, and then this is going to mount onto the Canon, and then we're going to mount onto the lens. So let me just show you how to do that. Line those two pieces up, turn it, lock it in. Then we're going to take our actual lens. And you can do this on the snoot if you want. I'm just doing it here so you can see it a little bit better. Lock the lens in, and then we can just screw the Canon mount in there. Make sure, line it up, don't cross thread any threads. Once it's on there, we're good to go. And you're gonna see this little silver slider over here. So what this is the aperture control, and we're able to manually adjust that now. I don't know if you can see in the actual lens there, as I go up and down, you can see that opening and closing. And 99% of the time, you're gonna wanna have that fully open because we want as much light going through the optical snoot as possible. And that's really why it's best to use fast aperture lenses. So if you have anything like 1.8, 2.8, those are gonna work best. I would say the maximum that you could probably use is a 5.6, but that's really gonna start limiting the light down. So again, recommended 1.8 or 2.8. So we can take this off the same way. So if I push down, that's not going to do anything because we don't actually have the Canon mounted to it. So I find this easier just to unscrew this one. if you're actually putting a different lens or something on. And then what you can do, you can actually go here, disconnect it if you want by pulling down. So that's going to release it from the actual control. And this is a little bit tricky here. When this is actually mounted to a lens, there's a little release on the inside here. And you can see this little steel lever here. What you're going to need to do is push that down. It's a release. And then basically turn the adapter kind of at the same time. It's a little bit tricky here, but as I turn it to the left there, I can feel it disconnect. And now we've disconnected from the Nikon lens. You can switch it out. And unfortunately, that right now is the only way to use those Nikon lenses that don't have the aperture control ring on them. We are working on another adapter that might be available in the future. But for now, there you have it. So we have 3 lens options: the Strobepro lens, we can use our Canon lenses, and we can use our Nikon lenses as well. So I've shown you the lens options on the website there. You can choose from whichever one you want, and you've also got the option to choose your speed ring. Now, like I said before, every snoot is going to come with the standard Bowens ring here, and that's great if you're using any Strobepro or Godox lights, either LED or strobes. That's going to just fit directly in there, nothing you have to worry about or do. Now, you might be shooting like Alien B, or this is Elinchrom or Profoto. We have a number of different options on the website there that you can choose from, and it's really easy to switch that ring. So if you're not going to use the Bowens, we have put 4 thumb screws on this new version, which make it really easy to take off, so you don't have to worry about a screwdriver. Not that the old version was hard to do, but this just makes it a lot easier. And these are all our standard sizes. So they're 152 millimeter speed rings, which is 6 inches. And that's what we use on our soft boxes and everything as well. So I took off those 2 top thumb screws there, and you saw that this basically just popped out. You're just gonna back those off kind of a quarter turn. We'll take something like the Profoto here, drop those into place, and we're just going to go back to those 2 holes we took the thumb screw out of. Get that one started, and get this one started. And then you're just gonna go tighten them down into position. And the great thing about this new design is that these sit completely flat on the back here. So what that does is it prevents any light leak. With the old version, it wasn't bad, but you could have a little bit of light leak out of the speed ring attachment there. This virtually eliminates that. It's nice and flush, no matter which mount you're using there. And so just another upgrade of this new version. So whatever strobe or LED that you're using, whether it's Profoto, Elinchrom, Alien B, or Bowens, we've got you covered with the new Optical Snoot. So now we have our lens mounted, we have our speed ring ready to go, and now we can get into actually installing some gobos on this Optical Snoot. So what you're going to need for that is the gobo holder here. That's that ring basically with the little stem sticking out of it. And you're going to need to choose a gobo. And in your box here, you have 16 gobos included now. So the previous version only came with 4, and then we actually sold sets of 4 gobos in the past version for basically $50 a piece. So essentially you're getting 4 times the amount of gobos, and the price has not increased accordingly. It's gone up a little bit, but you're really getting a great value for these. And we have gone as a staff and handpicked these ones to actually be useful. You're not just going to get a ton of like weird, unusable patterns. You're going to get like a mix of standard kind of geometric shapes, like you've got like a slit, a circle. You're going to get a couple funky ones, like this one's a tree, for example. And then you'll get a number of window patterns and diagonal lines, just stuff that's actually really useful to use in different circumstances. So let's go ahead, we'll grab just the standard window one here. And you're going to see on the gobo that there are an arrow. It's either going to be 1 arrow or 2 arrows, depending on the pattern. And they are facing up. So what we want to do with those is grab our gobo holder here. And they are going to insert that way. So sliding that way, whatever way the arrow is pointing there. And you want to be careful with these. They are delicate. They are cut out of steel, but they are thin to be able to achieve all the delicate cutouts that we have in some of those patterns. And you're going to see the little retaining clips here, one on each side and one on the bottom to hold it. So basically line that up, and you're just going to gently slide that under the clip until it stops at the end there, and we're good to go. So that's going to align it basically right in the middle of that circle. And now we're good to go and insert that into the actual snoot. So on the snoot itself, you have these posts here. So we have 1, 2, and then 3, and you'll see that we're kind of missing the 4th one there, and that's to give us room to insert the actual gobo holder. And what you want to do is have the gobo facing kind of towards the lens. It's not going to hurt anything if you go this way, but it is designed to go the other way. So gobo facing up, and you'll see these little ridges in here. It's almost like 2 washers, and that's what's going to retain this. And so we're going to go into the top one, into the bottom one, just make sure that we're lined up there, and then just push straight down. And then those clips are basically going to hold the gobo on. You want to just make sure that you're not misaligned or anything. It needs to be in between those. And from there, I'm going to show you once we get this on an actual light, you can adjust it, you can rotate it to position the pattern however you want. With the new version of the optical snoot, we also have a couple of new accessories that are purchased separately. First, I have the framing shutter here, and this is just a nice, easy way to make your own patterns, to control the light even more. You just slide these arms in and out, so you can open it up, you can close it down, you can make slits, you can basically create anything you want. And then we have the iris control here, so we can make a really fine spotlight if we want, or we can open it up and flood the whole thing with as much light as possible. With both of these options, you have the ability to add a gobo to the back, so it just gives you even more creative control by adding a gobo on those. Now we're going to mount the optical snoot to the light. I've grabbed a Godox FV200 LED, but remember with this optical snoot, you can use it on strobes just as easy. You just want to make sure that your light has the proper mount. So we have a Bowens mount here and a Bowens mount onto the optical snoot. And one thing you want to pay attention to is the opening of the gobo holder. So you can tell which way or which side it goes in by the space from these pins. So from down here to up here has the big opening versus over here would have one blocking it. So you want to pay attention to that because you probably don't want to have that facing down. You want to have it facing towards you probably or on the top. So we can just go line the prongs up on the Bowens mount, give it a 1/4 turn, lock it in, and we're ready to go. Now, if you don't want to line it up with the Bowens mount, you can actually go to the Speedring thumb screws here. You could loosen those off while it's on there, and you want to make sure that you're holding the snoot while you're doing this. Once they're loose, you can actually rotate that into position. I find it easier just to use the Bowens mount, but that's why we put those handy thumb screws on there so you can adjust it if necessary. To take it off, pull the release, 1/4 turn the other way, and it's off just as easy. So let's finally turn a light on here. I have the gobo inserted into the holder, and we're just going to turn on our LED so you can see it here. And there we go. We are projecting a pattern from this gobo. Now, the first thing that you might want to do is adjust the orientation of the gobo holder. We can see here, this one is just a little bit tilted. So I can go to the lever here and just grab a hold of the light, and you're just going to apply the pressure and adjust it and kind of straighten that out. Now I have this pattern defocused. I might want to focus that. So I have the Strobepro lens on here, so it makes it really easy to do. So I just go to the front of the lens here, and I'm just going to twist that, and you can see the pattern start to come into focus. And you can apply as much focus or as little focus as you want, but you can see how sharp that can get right there. And we can play with that orientation again. I can grab the holder, I can twist it to wherever I want, and it's as easy as that. So in focus, defocused, really easy to start working with the gobo holder and different gobos right away. So now let's grab a gel and insert it into the lens to show you how that works together. But I just wanted to mention a couple safety tips. Whenever you're putting a new gobo or a gel or anything on, you want to make sure that you turn the actual light off. Because we have a lens focusing that light, you don't want to stare directly at that. It's a lot of intensity going through there, so you want to protect your eyes. And then the other thing is you want to protect yourself from the heat that this is generating. So we have 200 watts on this light directly against the optical snoot, and it gets hot. Now we have all of this cooling, which helps a lot, but just be cautious after you've been running it for a little while that when you go to grab this, it will be warm. So let it cool off for a few minutes before you go and touch that. But with that said, let's add the gel to the lens. So I've added the gel to the lens like I showed you before, and that's really the easiest way to do it. Now I don't have to go and take out the gobo holder and try to put it on there. So the Strobepro lens is definitely something you might want to consider. So now you can see that we have gel on there and we have 100% coverage. I'll just refocus that there. Again, we can go and adjust the orientation as needed. And that's really all there is to adding a gel. So remember, there's 8 different gels in there. If you are using the gel, like I mentioned about the heat, it's usually okay in the lens because the lens is so far away from the actual LED chip. But if you are using it in the gobo holder, just pay attention that you don't want to use that for a really long time. It's going to get really hot in there. So use it, turn on the light off, let it cool down, just to be safe. So let's take a look at the framing shutters now. Again, you can purchase these separately. And before I turn the light on, these can be a little bit finicky to install. You want to make sure that you have each adjusting lever between a post here. So you can see the post here and here. I've got one there, down there. And if you don't do that, if you adjusted it so 2 are in between, it's going to be really difficult to use. So just make sure that you space those out appropriately. So we'll spin the light back here and flip it on. And you can see we've got kind of a different shape going on here. Before I adjust those, let's just focus in a little bit, make our lines a little bit crisper. So from there, we can narrow the beam down if we want. We can extend it longer. When you're pulling these, just make sure you're not pulling them too hard and you pull the gobo holder right out. But you can see here that we can create all kinds of shapes. We can control the pattern however we want. So these are really nice if you're working with models. You want like a slit of light to hit the hair or the face or something, or on a background. So this just gives you a lot of control. Something I would definitely recommend picking up for your optical snoot kit. Now I have the iris installed, and I don't have the gobo installed with it, but again, you can install a gobo with the iris, or you can install it with the framing shutter as well. But the main purpose of the iris is to be able to create a really small spot like you see there, or we take the lever here and we can go really big, allowing maximum light in there. And you'll see we are in focus here for the most part, but you can see that it's not 100% circular. If you need it to be exact, we do have a circular gobo that you can use. But that's not really a problem because you can defocus that if you want, and that's going to round that off so you really wouldn't notice it. Or if you keep it in focus here, let's just go back till we're in focus. If you extend this all the way to the maximum amount, it's going to get to there, and then all of a sudden the edges are going to soften out. So you can see we're losing the edges there. So if you want to have a really nice defocused spot like that, you can achieve it that way. But other than that, it's just really easy. So if you want to do a really fine spot, you're trying to hit somewhere on the model or on a product, for example, you can do that. Or if you're just trying to flood the whole scene, go to a bigger one. So that's the iris, and you can purchase that separately. So there you have it, guys. That's everything you need to know about the new Strobepro Optical Snoot version 2. We've given you new lens options, including the new Strobepro lens. We've given you multiple speed rings now that are the same as our other softbox speed rings. And you've got 16 Gobos now, and those are handpicked by our staff here to give you the most creativity and flexibility. So check out all the details at strobepro.com, and until next time, enjoy creating.